If there's a live-action superhero universe that loved pissing fans off by taking beloved comic characters and tossing something completely unrecognizable onto the screen, it was 20th Century Fox's X-Men universe. And after doing the rankings, counting down the top 20 worst adapted heroes and villains from the comic book source material into those live-action movies and seeing some of the worst adaptations we've ever covered, I realized something. It really should have been top 25, if not 30. A lot of people were asking where this or that character were when they were only a few slots higher than the 20 I covered, and were pretty damn close to being just as unrecognizable or disrespected as all of those below them. So let's amend that with a sister video, counting down the characters just above those lists, starting with the heroes, to see how much better are they even than the 20 below them. Are they going to be fairly decent adaptations by comparison, or are they pretty much all tied with the top spot on that ranking? As always, I've used the 3C system to rate and rank all heroes. I'll assume you already know all about them if you watched the previous X-Men videos. But for those of you who didn't yet, I'll channel my inner Quicksilver to cover them very, very quickly. Those 3 C's are costume, character, and continuity. Costume rates a character's outfit or costume, their overall look, and their superficial physical characteristics. Character rates their personality, relationships with others, and their powers or abilities. Continuity rates their origin story, their iconic moments, and their overall place in the world, universe, or timeline. So, starting with the hero adapted from the comics into the movies, who ranks as the 23rd worst adapted of all of them. Yeah, I know I said 5. It'll all make sense at the bottom of this list. We have Multiple Man. In the movies, Multiple Man appears in X-Men 3 as a guy with multiple powers. He's freed from a prisoner transport by Magneto, and then later when they realize that they wrote in a guy who can make multiples of himself into a movie with a climax involving an army of mutants attacking a small island, and that having a multiple guy in that climax would make things nearly impossible for our small band of heroes to deal with, they decided that the best use of that power was to have him pretend to be a whole camp of mutants to trick infrared sensors and then willingly get captured by soldiers armed with weapons that can fire the cure and completely remove his abilities. No idea why he agreed to do that, but that's about his entire role in the film. We also know that he can be in different places at once while multiplying and doesn't need to keep them all contained in one area, because it's stated earlier in the film that he was arrested for robbing multiple banks at the same time, so I have no idea why he couldn't have left 50 multiples here and still have gone to the island, but you know what? The movie didn't think about it, why am I? We get no badass fight involving duplicates, no insight into his character, or why he'd willingly break out of prison just to be arrested again, specifically in one of the worst times to be arrested as a mutant, and really no scene whatsoever that benefits from even having a guy with multiplying powers in the movie. So, I have no idea why he made it in here, honestly. In the comics, Jamie Madrox is quite different in the movie. First off, in the comics, he is a character. Like, a whole character who's pretty goddamn popular for more than just his frickin' multiple powers, and the green shirt, which is about all the movies harvested up from him. In the comics, Multiple Man had the ability to create duplicates of himself through kinetic impact with his body, while in the movies he seems to just be able to have them pop in and out as he wishes. He could not control when this would occur, so to limit the number of duplicates he'd create, he wore a special suit to dampen the physical impacts so he wouldn't just create duplicates accidentally. After this suit malfunctioned, it affected his mind, so he traveled to New York looking for help, where he came into conflict with the Fantastic Four. So, while he was initially kinda portrayed as a one-issue villain, it was for like 2 seconds before the team realized what was going on, and Professor Xavier arrived to help Madrox. Meanwhile, in the movies, he's just a straight-up bank robber. Not wanting to join the X-Men, he spent time instead on Moore Island, helping Moira McTaggart with her research and eventually met Siryn. Each of Madrox's duplicates are completely independent of him, with their own separate self-awareness and even differing personalities. Though, when the dupes merge back into him, he gains all of their memories and new knowledge. This can make things complicated for him, as sometimes his duplicates will form relationships, as one did with Siryn, or on rare occasions even go rogue and work against him, as one did with Mr. Sinister for a time. Or he completely loses track of duplicates who go off to live whole lives all on their own. Though, for the most part, they usually work in relative tandem with him. While in the movie, the duplicates seem like just your standard, no-personality duplicates, making him like a million friggin' duplicating characters out there and not like this specific one. Eventually, Multiple Man joins the mutant team X Factor, and after years of trying to find his place in the world, he restructures the group into a private investigation firm that helps mutants alongside his close allies like Siryn and Strong Guy, sometimes working with and sometimes having strong disagreements with other mutant groups like the X-Men. While in the movies, he has no friends, and he straight up joins Magneto's Brotherhood just because, he seems kind of bored. And while the comic version is usually fiercely independent and prefers to do things his own way, not wanting to work under the X-Men, and even fighting against those who tell him and others what to do, As said before, the movie version was happy to just let himself get arrested so the Brotherhood could attack the mutant cure. So, he kinda looks like Multiple Man, which is more than you can say about a lot of the characters beneath him, but due to his doing nothing in the plot and acting nothing like the comic version, I really have no idea why he's here, except, I don't know, maybe you thought it would be a cool scene in the trailer? And they had the gall to tell us that they were planning a friggin' spin-off movie where he wouldn't even be by the same actor anyways, but was going to be replaced by frickin' James Franco. That's one of the last people I would want having goddamn multiple powers after what's come out about him. Anyway, next down to 22nd with Angel Salvador. Like Multiple Man, Angel Salvador was a character that the a-holes making these things saw when paging through random mutants, thought she had a cool-looking power, and tossed her into a movie without any further research or care whatsoever. In the comics, Angel was a new student who joined the Xavier Institute during the New X-Men era. She came from a broken and low-income home where she was overtly abused in many ways by her cruel stepfather. When her mutation began manifesting as a strong stench and hives all along her back, he treated her even worse than before, and she fought back and was driven from her home. Soon after, she created a cocoon and emerged with insect-like wings. After emerging, she was tracked down and found by the U-Men, a group that harvests the mutated body parts of mutants from them to attach them to themselves to gain their powers. Honestly, the U-Men and 20th Century Fox actually have a lot in common, since Fox usually just sees mutants for their powers, then harvests that off of them and leaves everything else dead and rotting behind. The X-Men save her, and she's brought back to learn at the Xavier Institute. Though due to her incredibly difficult life, she is socially maladjusted and stunted, and is put into a special class alongside other mutants whose disabilities due to their powers or their difficult antisocial personalities cause them to need special care. Though she initially hates herself for her mutations, causing her to lash out, she eventually forms bonds with her classmates, specifically Beak, and begins to learn to accept herself both as a mutant and as a person. In the movie, they decided to turn all of that into her being a stripper who Xavier and Magneto hire for a private dance. Then, while awkwardly sitting in a bed together, they show her their powers and she shows off her pretty insect wings. She's recruited into their burgeoning X-Men, but leaves with Sebastian Shaw before they even have their first mission. While in the movie, Angel is just a pretty girl with pretty bug wings, in the comics, her powers are portrayed as being quite absolutely disgusting. The movie version portrays her as able to somehow keep her wings hidden as a weird butterfly tattoo on her back, letting her just blend in with humans and saving them the budget of having to, have her wear a friggin' harness. While the comic version just constantly has fly wings jutting out of her back. The comic version also produces digestive acid that she can expel from her mouth as acidic green vomit, able to burn through pretty much anything, like a fly does. And due to changes in her digestive system, she must secrete this acid onto her food ahead of time before eating it in order to swallow and digest it afterwards. Ugh. In the movie, they turn this into just little yellow projectiles she can shoot out of her mouth like bullets and that can explode and create flame. In the comics, she is impregnated by Beak, and when she gives birth, it is to several larval sacs of eggs that gestate and hatch within only a few days that she attaches to the ceiling by secreting an adhesive from her body onto them. Basically, in the comics, like Beak and her other classmates, she represents those mutants who don't get the sexy, relatively clean powers of Cyclops or Jean Grey. In the movies, they said, ew, and just turned her into an excuse to have a hot chick show off her back all the time. And while she exists in the modern day in comics, in the movies, she's chosen, for some reason, as one of the characters to introduce way back in the 60s as one of the original X-Men. And alert, major spoilers for New X-Men Incoming, which is a comic worth reading. It's revealed that the teacher of that special class, Zorn, is actually a disguised Magneto who's been teaching the kids anti-human mutant supremacist propaganda and ideology. And both Angel and Beak are swept up in his plans before they both rebel against him and aid the X-Men in taking him down. In the movie, after Sebastian Shaw is defeated, Angel is seen for like half a second in Magneto's Brotherhood. Those 2 seconds of being with Magneto are just enough to keep her from being a couple spots lower on this list. Even though pretty much nothing about her is similar, and since no one gave a crap about her in that movie, she's killed off screen in the next one. Now down to 21 with, Psylocke. So, we already went over Psylocke way lower on this list with the version seen in X-Men 3. But since fans were so annoyed at seeing such an insanely popular and beloved character being butchered like that, Fox decided to just ignore that version and retcon in a new one who would look a lot more like the comic version, while acting absolutely nothing like her. Because comic fans are stupid, you see, and only like characters because of their costume colors and shiny powers. I already went through the Herculean effort of summing up all of Psylocke's insanely convoluted continuity into a paragraph and a half explanation in the last video. So not wanting to just rewrite the same exact thing, I'm gonna cheat here and just reread that verbatim for this one. Forgive me, come on. If Fox can just do what they did before and act like it's something different, so can I, right? Psylocke was originally Betsy Braddock, the sister of Captain Britain, who had psychic abilities. Eventually, she met and used her abilities to aid the X-Men before she eventually was kidnapped by the crime lord Matsuo Torishaba, in the hopes he could use her psychic abilities to revive his comatose love, the ninja assassin Quanon. But instead they wound up switching bodies, and Betsy in Quanon's body was brainwashed into becoming an assassin herself. However, she was freed of this brainwashing and returned to fighting alongside the X-Men, now gaining the abilities of a lifetime of training as a ninja assassin that her new body had as well. As I said in the last video, this is all a lot more complicated than that, but just go with me. Though the body exchange had diminished her psychic abilities, she learned how to focus them into a psychic knife that can be plunged into opponents, causing mental damage or disrupting their nervous system. In X-Men Apocalypse, Betsy Braddock is a mutant woman working as an assistant and bodyguard to the shady underground mutant informant Caliban. When Apocalypse reaches out to Caliban to find powerful mutants to recruit into his horsemen, when Psylocke pulls out a pink psionic blade to protect Caliban, Apocalypse decides, that's good, yeah, that's powerful enough to join my cause, and recruits her. She instantly betrays Caliban once Apocalypse gives her the increased power to, I'm not sure, make her psionic blade grow brighter or something, they don't really go into it, and starts working for Apocalypse, following him around as he recruits more mutants. Now yes, like in X-Men 3, this is completely wrong and a horrible and random use for her. However, by pure technicality that I doubt the people writing this movie were even aware of, Psylocke was kinda a horseman for like half a second, though in the comics she was forcibly turned into a horseman, not by Apocalypse, but by Archangel. And very, very soon after, her mind was freed. While in the movie, Apocalypse makes her his horseman, even though Caliban is right friggin' there. And the movie version doesn't have to be forced to, because while the comic Psylocke is, a hero, the movie version is a cold, self-serving mercenary who happily and willingly joins up for the promise of more power. And though Storm got a redemption arc and at least joins the team at the end, Psylocke just wanders off after the battle, never to be seen again. You happy, nerd? This is what you wanted out of her, right? Power-wise, she seems to have her psionic blade powers, but none of her other convoluted psychic powers. She wears a costume that's very close to her most iconic outfit, but somehow more slutty, which is the opposite direction from how female costumes are usually adapted nowadays. And for this franchise, looks kinda weird since everyone else is just wearing black bodysuits. She carries a katana and can fight, so assumedly she has similar training to the ninja side of the comic version, though we learn absolutely nothing about her backstory because, as you know, all comic characters are just a costume and a power. And while it's a difficult decision on whether you're going to adapt the character accurately in a movie and have a convoluted backstory involving a British woman body swapped into a Japanese woman's body, or if you're going to simplify it by having her either just be a Japanese British woman with the same backstory, or rewriting her into a basically new Japanese woman stripped of all the British elements, the movie decided to just not do either aspect of the character whatsoever, making her just sound American and giving her no backstory whatsoever. Nailed it. Honestly, I think how she was portrayed in here was actually very telling of what Hollywood thinks of most comic nerds. After years of people being annoyed by Psylocke in Last Stand and wanting to see her, Hollywood strips the character of everything that makes her that character, besides her knife, and then tosses her into the most expensive thirst trap cosplay ever made, expecting fans to just thank them for it. But God, they just don't understand. We want the characters we love. And the $1 million thirst trap cosplays. Do that and I will personally give you so much money that it's not even... And alright, as you likely noticed, we said 5 characters and that was only 3 on top of those 20. The next character is one who would actually have appeared much lower on the full top 20 worst heroes ranking video, but I cut her out due to barely being a character in the movie and not really having her heroic side explored anyways. At 14.5, we have Hope Summers. In comics, the Scarlet Witch's reality-altering abilities mixed with a nervous breakdown caused her to remove the powers of the vast majority of mutants on the planet on a day that would come to be known as M-Day. Since that day, not only were there a little under 200 mutants left powered, but no new ones were being born as well, making it look like mutant kind was now an endangered species. Hope was the first mutant born since M-Day and launched a war to track her down and protect or destroy the future of mutant kind through protecting or killing her. The town she was born in was destroyed by the anti-mutant organization known as the Purifiers, and while slaughtering all children in the village to try to get her, Hope is rescued by the time traveler Cable. While some believed that the child was destined to be a mutant messiah, others believed that she was an antichrist-like figure and would bring about doom for both mutants and humans. Cable protected her and eventually brings her to the future to keep her safe and raise her and train her to use badass gigantic guns like he does while fighting against and being pursued by all manner of threats who wish to kill the girl as she grew or use her power for their own purposes. This is a very badass story, an awesome element of Cable lore, and she is an awesome character as you get to watch her grow towards her destiny. But as the movies didn't do that good of a job at Cable, they of course did an even worse job at Hope. In the movies, Hope is Cable's daughter in the future, and that's about it for similarities. We don't know if she's adopted or not, but it's implied that she's just his normal biological daughter with his wife. She and her mother are killed by one of Cable's enemies, Firefist, which leads to Cable traveling back in time to kill Firefist as a child. Later on, the future is changed, and Hope survives. Yay! She has absolutely none of the aspects that make her a character in the comics, and is just a MacGuffin for Cable to travel back in time for. And while the comic has red hair to initially imply and later reveal a connection to the then-dead Jean Grey and the Phoenix, in the movies she's blonde instead, likely to match her biological papa better. And since Cable lacks the over-the-top gigantic 90s guns of the comics, I highly doubt he's training her to use them either, since in the glimpses we see of her, she seems like a pretty much totally normal and well-adjusted young girl with a teddy bear. Normally, I'd put someone this small on these lists, but since it was a hero list and the younger version of Hope was still in training and hadn't really become a traditional hero yet, I kept her off. But here's a dishonorable mention of a character who either way is nothing like her much cooler comic counterpart. And lastly, we have a hero who I did not put on the list at all, and will not put in, because I can find no evidence that he's actually the character that the entire internet claims he is, without ever actually citing where that was ever said. Anole. In the comics, Anole is a young mutant whose mutation gives him lizard-like features. Unlike many mutants, he was accepted by his parents and community until anti-mutant beliefs began to grow louder in society. His parents send him to the Xavier Institute for his safety and to learn about and train his abilities. He trains under many older mentors and goes through many trials that teach him about being a hero. After M-Day, Anole was one of a handful of students who kept their powers and eventually becomes a member of the young, new X-Men. He's a fan-favorite character due to his cool design and likable personality. And here's where I'd normally play this clip from X-Men 3 and say, in the movies, Anole is a random mutant you see crawling on a wall at a meeting discussing the Cure in X-Men 3, who you later see run in and get shot by the Cure as the Brotherhood storm the island. And then I'd complain the only reason they chose him was so they could have a weird-looking lizard guy get cured like they did with Glob. And I'd whine about, he's a whole character, but they only wanted his lizard powers, yada yada yada, and they couldn't even be bothered to make him look like the lizard powers, yada 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 yada. But I'm not doing that, because contrary to every online source talking about this movie, claiming this is Anole, I can find no evidence of this. I've searched everywhere, man, but none of the places claiming this ever cite where it was initially said. I can't find any interviews where anyone involved with this movie says this is Anole. He's barely a character and is not named in the movie even once, with the credits just listing him as Lizard Man. I figured people must be referring to something said, on the audio commentary, so I spent 20 friggin' minutes trying to find my goddamn DVD copy of X-Men 3, popped it in, skipped through frickin' ads for Ice Age, Behind Enemy Lines 2, Thank You for Smoking, picked the To Take a Stand side, then finally listened to both audio commentary tracks during both scenes where this lizard guy's in it to see if anyone on the crew referred to him as Anole. The only thing the director said about him when he popped on screen is, that's a fully CGI character, as if I couldn't friggin' tell. And then later gushes about how they saw Fat in an X-Men encyclopedia and just had to put him in the movie. In the second track, they don't even talk about the character, and then mistakenly call Fat Glob Herman proudly for remembering the name of the character even though they got the wrong one. Then, in the battle scene, both tracks just talk about how they weren't sure if audiences would understand mutants were getting cured, so they put in weird-looking mutants like Lizard Man, which is what the lady in the audio commentary called him. So, I don't know. I didn't listen to the entire commentary. Maybe there's one random spot where someone says that lizard dude was Anole. Maybe there's some obscure interview out there I can't find online amidst all the search results of spam wikis and garbage pseudo-pop culture pseudo-journalism that pops up whenever you put in a keyword like X-Men. If there is, dear God, someone out there let me know. But this just seems like a case of some guy's brother once said, you know, that lizard guy's actually a character from comics. His name is Anole. Then that brother grew up to write a wiki synopsis of characters in this movie, and everyone just copied his entry into eternity claiming this to be the truth without ever citing a single source that this is the case. According to Wikipedia, Lloyd Adams portrays a green-skinned mutant who climbs the guard tower in Alcatraz. Many fans believed this was Toad. However, the credits list him as Lizard Man, and Brett Ratner confirmed it was Anole. This is an incredibly specific statement. If this happens, I assumed one of you out there who are nerdy enough to be listening to this video must have seen it somewhere. And it's repeated over and over everywhere with no source whatsoever. So even if it did happen, none of the people copying that first source ever bothered to check if it's true or not. You could say maybe this whole video is just me futilely trying to reach out to find the one guy nerdy enough to confirm if this ever even happened. But I have my doubts. After listening to the commentary, I doubt Brett Ratner knows who friggin' Wolverine is, much less friggin' Anole. Anyways, there's the end of the companion list of worst adapted Fox X-Men heroes. Sorry got a little crazy there at the end, but you know how it is. If you already watched the previous list, are these any better than the characters below them? If you haven't yet and want to keep going down into this adaptational abyss that is X-Men movies, give the original video a watch. If you thought these were bad, bub, you ain't seen nothing yet. I'll have the villain companion list up much quicker than usual, and soon after we'll see what a best adapted Fox X-Men heroes and villains list even looks like. Until then, always remember, cite your goddamn wikis.